Yay! Hi, Jason Nelson again. Playing around here with digital poetry interfaces. Again, I've designed a range of digital poetry interfaces that you, the user, writer, poet, person with vehicles and homes and all these fancy luxury items that you have, can use to play around with this stuff. So, what do we got here? Well, this I am calling the branching screen. You can see the other names. You probably looked at the other videos. They're all really terrible. But you know what? I care, actually. That's a shame, isn't it? I'm going to get rid of that. The branching screen. Why is this called the branching screen? Well, what we have here, and again, the poetics on this are not mine. It's just a test. I have another digital poem that I can share with you at some later date, but this is just showing you how to use it, talking about it. What is this? Well, let's look. You can see every time I click one of these little boxes, it branches out, and the poem becomes sort of more multi-dimensional. So how would you write something like this? You can see me going around. Do you want to switch to the screen? Rock out. There we are. All right, so there it is. So every time I click that plus sign, it has additional branching for the poetic content. Now, how can you think about this? Well, obviously, you could think about this in a straight sort of linear way in terms of stanzas. But in essence, in reading the poem, it becomes a very different experience because the user can click anywhere. So the poem could be this, the poem could be that, could be this, could have that. You could get rid of this, and you could have that. So the idea of it, it becomes a very non-linear, multi-branching poem. So as a writer, oftentimes what I would recommend people do, so you can switch back to me, sir. As a writer, what I would suggest you do is this. Think about your poems, write out, let's say, a 10-line poem. And then think about each of the lines, how they could possibly create another poem that would come off of that. And so it's almost like you'd have a straight poem, and that poem, each of those lines would have additional branches that would come off of those. And those could have additional branches. Now, there's a technical limitation in terms of you can only do so many. I'm not sure how many it is, but it's probably maybe 100 or something like that. So don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. Anyway, a theme song. What did the theme song be this time? Net poetic. I almost said digital poetry. Net poetic. Net poetic. Net poetic. I can't even hear the guy. This is Bevan. Robot voice. Robot voice. Net poetic. I am a robot. Let me show you digital poetry. For all you people who are scared of digital poetry, you're like, I'm a print purist. I don't like digital poetry. You're being lame. I don't know why. It's words, language. Play around with it. Don't constrain yourself. I am a robot. Anyway. All right, so how do we actually modify this and play around with it? So switch to the other view, Bevan. And by the way, I can no longer hear you, so I don't know. That's gone away. Oh, there you are. No, don't let them. All right, now this is perhaps the most difficult of them all to modify. How the hell do I mean that? Well, let me tell you. Do you want to hear? This is where you alter the text. You can see that? I've actually written that in there. Should we try to increase that? No, I don't know how to do that. Forget it. So there's actually a really difficult sort of way. It's like parentheses. Actually, Bevan, switch back to me. Okay. Let me describe this to you. What you have is a series of parentheses. So imagine you have the in parentheses become the sentence or the ends of the poem. And then each branching has its own parentheses. So you have parentheses inside of parentheses inside of parentheses. So the first line here, you can hardly see it, but that's all right. Just look at the site. I explain it there for you. But the first line becomes to construct here. That is at the beginning of the very first parentheses. And then the last line, way out here, is the beginning, and that's at the very end. And then inside each of the sections are smaller parentheses. So you have to play around with it. The best way of figuring this one out, because believe me, it freaks the crap out of me as well. Somebody's like making a throw up noise in my ear. I'm not sure why. Are you okay, Bevan? Are you okay? All right. No, I know, the text you can't see. He's telling me you can't see the text. You can't see the text either. Look at the screenshots. I'm providing screenshots for you and examples on the site. But you go in there and you modify those things. Again, just write out your poem as if it's branching, like it's a freaking Christmas tree. If you don't believe in Christmas, don't follow Christmas, think it's too commercial, or whatever, think of another tree, like an elm tree or a tree, whatever you want. But those are the main considerations. Now, the background graphics here, this is just something extra added in there. You can add whatever you want. You can change the font sizes. You can do all those sort of things to adjust what's happening in the poem. This one's more constrained than some of the other ones in terms of you're strictly dealing with the idea of a branching poem. What's great about it, though, is it stays on the screen. So it becomes this very sort of organic experience. Don't you hate when people say that, organic experience? It becomes a very involved experience for the user / reader / poet lover, person who loves poetry, or maybe a lover who also is a poet, which some of us are. Va-va-va-voom. Va-va-va-voom. Again, here we go. So this has been the branching screen. It sounds like one of those cheesy books like At the End of the Sidewalk or To the Sidewalk's End. Remember that when you were a kid? Anyway, this is much better. Much, much better. So play around with it. What's the key word, everyone? Yeah, that's right. Donate. Give me money. Invite me to speak at your university because I am very fun. Very subtle. Well, what am I supposed to do? He's telling me it's subtle. It's not subtle, but come on. I'm poor. No, really. I'm doing these things because it needs to be done. They're bridges. This is a bridge. Print world, poetry world, these are something in the middle. And by the way, my limo, I have a limo, holy crap. He's talking in my ear. This is not the end all of digital poetry. These are just ways to get you into it, get you exploring it, thinking about your poetry in multilinear, multi-dimensional ways. So, there it is. Play around with it. Send me an email. And goodbye. Cougar.